What's up, guys? Welcome back to a new episode of Out of the Park Baseball 26, where we are attempting to rebuild the Pittsburgh Pirates. Last we left off was quite the shakeup for our team. It's the start of the offseason in 2027. As we look forward to 2028, we have a bunch of decisions to make in front of us. We didn't really advance much in last episode because there were some major moves we had to make, but I think the plan for this video will be to continue pushing through the early parts of the offseason here. We'll go through all of the awards and reach free agency and kind of see who's available in the pool, and then possibly even advance all the way up to the Rule 5 draft. That's sort of to be determined depending on how quickly we end up moving. But before we dive in, I just wanted to say thanks for watching these videos. I really appreciate all the support on the series, and let me know what you think of our latest shake-up, all of the trades that we've made and the moves here as we position ourselves for the upcoming season. And I did want to kind of give you a heads up that I'm trying to bank a couple of these videos and get ahead of recording. I'm going to be busy in the next few days, and I'm not going to be able to play as much. So I'm trying my best to stockpile videos for you guys so we can keep a consistent upload schedule moving forward. But as always, I appreciate any likes or comments you're able to put on the video. But also just, thanks for watching in general. I really appreciate your support on this series. But I have some notes that we have to go over. So if you missed the end of last episode, obviously there was a blockbuster trade where we ended up shipping Paul Skeens to New York in exchange for a couple of high-tier prospects and a couple of wild cards. We ended up getting Carson Benj as the primary piece in return. He's just outside the top 100 prospects in baseball. He's number 101, and we view him as like an MLB-ready player who can contribute for us this upcoming season. So I look forward to getting him involved with the team. And we were also able to get Elian Pena, who is a very high upside shortstop, second base, up the middle defender, who is still super young. He's just 20 years old, so he's going to be starting at high A for us this season. He's never really gotten a full season of run there. He could possibly play double A, but I think we're going to look to start him off at high A and then just see how he progresses. He is a ground ball hitter, so hopefully our mechanics coaching can get that fixed and he can turn into a nice long-term piece for us as well. But we also got two other guys. The major one is probably Mark Vientos, who has 2 years of arbitration remaining. I think we're going to look to bring him back. We have offered him an arbitration deal. He was looking for around $4 million. We went under that just a bit to bring him back, but I think it's very likely he's our starting third baseman going into next season. And we need the righties in the lineup, and I don't mind having him as a power corner infield bat. And then the other throw-in was Jonathan Santucci, who's definitely more of a wild card starting pitcher for us. Former second-round pick, I believe, in 2024. And as a left-handed pitching prospect, there's a little bit to dream on here. Obviously, the control is like a little suspect, although we've at one point viewed it as a 45. So, I'm hoping he can turn it around. OSA is much higher on him as well. They view him like having a lot more upside, but we're going to have him at double A this year and probably bring him to spring training as well, just to kind of see if he can make anything happen there. But he's really never been pushed by them higher than high A. So I think it's time to get him at the double A level where he should be able to perform decently well with all his pitches above average. So that was the haul, if you missed it. Obviously, fan interest cratered, and we've failed our owner goal, so we got to hope we don't get fired. Fan interest dropped from 65 down to 51, which is pretty brutal. But, I think it makes sense for us in terms of we need to reset this year. We pushed for the playoffs last year, and we didn't quite make it, and now we need to sort of retool and look ahead to the future. So those are, that's sort of the recap on everything we've done. Like I mentioned, in ARB, we did end up offering Vientos a 1-year renewal, I think at 4.2. And then in the development lab, at the very end of last episode, I showed this, but we ended up putting Carson Benj in there on a bat speed program because we think there's 10 points of upside in his power, and that could really set him apart if he was able to be an above-average power lefty for us. So we're hoping for good results there, but again, we haven't advanced at all since the last episode. I wanted to touch on a couple more things on camera before I start moving through all of this together. I think we can review some of our salaries that we have at the 40-man level, and then kind of outline our team needs before I start to advance and push forward. So the first thing I wanted to do is look at all of the salaries on this page, because this is a time where we can waive and DFA players who we don't want to renew or who may be out of their option years, and I have quite the list of guys I'm looking to cut ties with here. As you can see, we've already waived and DFA'd Ronnie Simon and Nick York, so they'll no longer be with us. Dalton Rogers, I think, the upside never really materialized with him, and the control being at just 35. I think we're done here. We're going to waive and DFA him, even though he still has option years remaining. I am kind of just content to find other lefties elsewhere. I don't want to pay him a major league deal, so he will be gone. The next guy I have on the list is actually Mitch Jebb, who I view very similarly, just a 40 grade guy. I think we can find other interesting players like this in our system, and I don't necessarily want him right now, so we will waive and DFA Mitch Jebb as well. We also have, all of these guys we're going to keep or still have options. Nick Samio is, not really much of a factor for us anymore. Although we do view him with a little bit of upside, but I think Wes Kath is going to be the first baseman that we carry at the AAA level. So we're going to waive and DFA Nick Samio as well. And then Sung Chae is out of option years, so we are done with the Sung Chae experiment. He will be gone from the 40-man this year. So best of luck to him in free agency, or maybe we look to retain him. Who knows? We're keeping Bubba Chandler. He has 2 option years remaining. We're gonna keep him. We're gonna waive and DFA Jace Bowen, kind of a backup outfielder, first base type, and we're clearing up a lot of spots here, guys. That's sort of like the idea. Barossa still has option years as a backup outfielder. We're gonna keep him. Hunter Barco is coming back off of elbow surgery, and I don't think it makes sense to carry him on the 40. So we're going to waive and DFA Hunter Barco as well. And sure, we'll go ahead and pull him back if he does get claimed. The last guy I have written down here is someone you may think is funny, but Odanier Mosqueda. At one time we were really hopeful for him, and then he just totally was terrible at both the MLB and AAA level. So just a total miss on our scouting. We still kind of see the lefty specialist in him, but his ceiling has fallen dramatically. And he's on a $1.2 million deal that'll be renewed through next season. So I just think we can do better. We're going to waive and DFA him as well. So that should open up quite a bit of, money for us, I believe. Yeah, we're back up. We were at $9 million, and now we're back up to 15. So that just, helps us with our flexibility there. And I think it may even go slightly higher because we're non-tendering Carmen Majinski as well. I think it may be estimating his $5 million demand into this, so it's possible we even have up to $20 million to play with. So the other thing I'm eyeing here is Ke'Bryan Hayes, and he's set to make $16 million over the next 2 years, but I think we're done with this experiment, guys. I don't like having him on the roster. He doesn't provide any value with the bat at all, and there's obviously no trade market for him. So I think it's going to be his time with us is going to come to an end. I think we're just going to release him because I don't mind to just continue paying the salary, and I would just rather bring someone new up and have them on the bench. I think even Jack Brannigan gives us more value than Ke'Bryan would. at least in terms of like homers and like everything Brannigan did for us last year. He hit 7 homers. Like Ke'Brien's never doing that for us. So all that to say, I think we're going to go ahead and release Ke'Brien Hayes as well. And so his remaining 16 mil on his 8 mil in 2028 and 2029 will be spread out over the remainder of the life of the contract. We're just okay doing this. I think we have a little bit of financial flexibility. I just want to get out from under it. And I think it makes us a better team next season, like I said. So we're going to go ahead and release him. And so now the finances, they look the same because his salary was already factored in. But it just frees up another roster spot where I think we can have someone more effective play. And it opens the door for Vientos to get full-time run as our third baseman. So I just think it makes us better. Sorry, Ke'Brien. It had to be done. And, we're still handcuffing ourselves with, like, paying his salary to a degree. So otherwise, you can see everyone else here that we have finances currently allocated to. It'll be the last year with Mitch Keller. Mullins, we already reviewed his opt-in. And then Brian Reynolds, we still have on a 3-year deal. So this is really tough. I also view him as untradeable. And, we're just going to have to figure out what to do with him. I think he is likely going to be our DH next year just because we can't bench 15 mil. So we'll kind of look to see what we do, going forward. But I wanted to clean up the books a bit ahead of, free agency with, waiving and DFAing all those guys. I think if we were to consider possible trade candidates for us, I'm going to look into seeing if we can get anything for Mullins because I'm, not that I don't think he would be bad for us, but I just think we're so lefty heavy and he does have some value being a positive WAR player, like good defender and center. I think it's possible that we could get some kind of return for him. So I'll need to do some shopping over the next couple of weeks and maybe further into the offseason as well, into the winter meetings to see if it would make sense for us to move off of him, just to open up playing time for some of our younger guys. I think, we may benefit from that in the long run if we can kind of clear the way for guys like Binge and even Antunes to get more playing time. But that's all I have written down for salaries. A couple big moves, the Hayes one especially. And then we can kind of turn our attention to team needs. I think in terms of like our depth chart here, we're pretty fine. I think we're penciling Wyatt Sanford in as our shortstop here. So if you think Termar, Mullins, Cruz in the outfield, Gonzalez, we're going to stick at second base. We just have to, even with the subpar defense. And then Sanford is the shortstop. Piero is the full-time backup up the middle. And then we have Vientos and Horwitz on the corners with Endy and Alfonso behind the dish, along with Reynolds at DH. Like, I feel pretty decent about running this out. Mullins being the one wild card. Maybe Cruz goes back to center if we trade Mullins, and then we get Carson Benj in right field full time. Something like that possibly could be an option. But I don't think we really need to acquire anything major on the offensive front, just because, like, I would normally say DH, but we're financially tied to Reynolds and we need to play him somewhere, and he was horrific for us in the outfield last season, so I think it's just part of the box we put ourselves into in this sim that we have to play him at DH. So I think our moves on offense are going to be a little more limited, but I think where we can look to make a big splash is on the pitching side of things. So if we kind of look at if we sculpt out our rotation here of like Jones, Keller, Harrington, Burrows, and then we have all of these guys in middle and long relief. Like Majinski will no longer be here, so he'll be knocked down a role. It's possible we could look to get a number 2 pitcher, and I think we have enough money to bring a number 2 starter on. We don't want to roll out Keller. Like, I'm thinking ahead if we were to make the playoffs, which is probably unlikely, but if we were, we want a strong 1-2 punch, and I don't feel good about Keller being that guy, or Harrington, or Burrows. So, I don't mind keeping Harrington and Burrows as like our 4-5, and I think Keller we just kind of have to throw in the 3. But if there's a pitcher available in either free agency or on the trade market, I think we could look to acquire a strong number 2 starter. And then with we're moving off of Caleb Ferguson. I think we could look to bring in like a leverage lefty as well. So that's sort of where my head is at. And then we'll need somebody to fill like a long relief or a middle relief role. That could be Superman for us or somebody in free agency as well. But those are sort of the major needs I have outlined, like a number 2 starter and a leverage bullpen lefty. And then we'll kind of see what we end up doing with Mullins. But let me leave you guys here with this and kind of advance a little bit off camera. I'm going to continue rolling through and probably circle back with you after we get to the awards. And I'll kind of do some investigating on the trade front in between there and, come back with any updates that we may have. But, I appreciate sticking with me through all the nitty-gritty details. But, stay tuned. We'll be back with some award news shortly. Alrighty, guys, we have made it through award season, and I have a bunch of news I want to catch you guys up on. Let's go back to the beginning here. So we ended up obviously re-signing a bunch of our players. Sung Chae was claimed by Houston, so we did lose him, and we've been filling like coaching vacancies and sort of in between. One of the coaches we were going after was Andrew McCutcheon. I really wanted to bring him on as first base coach, but the demand for him was just simply too high. And check this out. He's now the manager of the Miami Marlins. So he turned into a really good coach. He ended up retiring, obviously, and I turned him into a coach, and then I went to try to, bring him into the org. And he just got paid elsewhere. So best of luck to the Fish with their new manager, McCutcheon. He's looks like a pretty good coach. I mean, outstanding mechanic, good at developing, good at outfield defense, obviously. So that's a bit of a fail on our part. We ended up not being able to bring him on, but we filled all of our coaching holes and ended up signing a bunch of our players. So we got JoJo to sign his deal, and again, it's just a 2-year extension with a team option on the second year as well. So $2.75 million for each season for him. So happy to bring him back. Oviedo renewed for 1 year, so did Gonzalez, and the fans were happy to see Gonzalez return. Jared Jones also took his deal. So we are tied to him now through 2032, and you can see it's pretty team favorable. The first 3 ARB years are pretty reasonable, and then the back 2 are reasonable as well for what we think he can be. So we've got our ace locked in now for the foreseeable future, and then a lot of other guys renewed. Burrows, who is popular with the fans, gave us a boost. Vientos renewed. As did Spencer Horwitz and Endy. So then a bunch of our minor league guys renewed as well, and then Liover Peguero was the last guy. So that wraps up all of our ARB signings. We are now fully committed, and our fan interest improved by 2 points up to 53. And you can see our available money has dipped a bit. This is still factoring in the Majinski estimate, I think, so it's likely this bumps back up to 10 mil. Once we continue simming, a few days into the future and get to the free agency pool. But we kind of readjusted our IFA and draft budgets to bump those up a bit. So now we're just right on target with our IFA spend. And honestly, the draft budget is a little low. We'll look to kind of manipulate that going forward. But I wanted to put some money there as just like a placeholder so we can kind of not be too aggressive with our spending. So we'll see what the lottery ends up doing for us and where we'll, be slotted to pick. But I think we should be more of like a middling team this season, like mid first round pick. But those are some financial updates. The coach we ended up hiring was this unproven guy who was managing down at the rookie ball level, but gift Ngope, but good personality. We wanted him because he brings legendary infield defense, which is an upgrade on what we had. So now we go legendary, outstanding across the board, and everyone gets along. Just a super clutch hire. So we plugged the hole there. And then before we get into the awards, I got a note that the AFL team that our players go to are in the playoffs. So let's check in on it's unfortunate they disbanded right before I checked in, but I wanted to show you the performance of a couple guys we had sent there. The first of which was Wyatt Sanford. He ended up turning it around a bit. He ended up getting 145 plate appearances, hit 226 for a 605 OPS, so not the best season down there for him, but I think the at-bats hopefully helped him improve, and it looks like his contact rating jumped a bit, and his potential did as well, so I think it was beneficial to get him down there, and I think maybe his avoid K improved as well, so all around a positive experience for him. The other guys we had down there that I wanted to look at were Superman, Skylar Hales, and I think he did really well. 13 games, 3.5 ERA, 1.0 WHIP, less than a homer per 9, and only 1 walk per 9. So he did quite well. I don't know if his scouting report changed at all. It looks like no. But it's possible he's our long relief mop-up guy this year at the majors, kind of to be determined. And then we should look at the two outfielders, Gavin Turley I know did not do super well from what I could see. His Dev League line here, 4 homers, 11 RBI, hit sub 200 for 650 OPS. Still a win above replacement, probably because of his defense, but not the strongest performance behind the dish or in the batter box for him. But Dean Curley, I know, did super well. His Dev League numbers, he hit 10 homers, which led the league, and he had a 1,000 OPS. He led the league in WRC Plus as well. So big fall league performance for Dean Curley. I don't know if his we'll go ahead and request a new scouting report on him to see if anything's changed, but it's possible he could factor for us this upcoming season. If he comes along just a little bit more with the contact or the gap power or even the power, I would, love to have him on board. And he can play corner outfield as well with a big arm. So we could fit him in a number of places. But those are the fall league updates. Now let's touch on the awards. Not a big award season for us. We'll go back here to Gold Glovers. In the AL, you can see, everyone here. No major surprises, I would say. And in the NL, none of our guys get acknowledged here. The one guy maybe we would get acknowledged for would be Cedric Mullins, but he's blocked by Brenton Doyle, who he's never going to beat out, so that's kind of tough. Reliever of the year in the AL goes to Class A in a unanimous sweep. NL, it's actually Hobie Milner, the 36-year-old from Colorado. Kind of edges out AJ Minter. This is just overall a very bizarre group of guys to see there. And then Silver Sluggers now in the AL. I guess Sebastian Walcott is fully here, 6.7 WAR on the season for him, and then no other big surprises, I would say. All names you would expect to see. In the NL, maybe Jefferson Rojas and Sal Stewart are surprises, both in our division, 2 young players there. And Ryan Campos as well, a catcher in the Cardinals org. Had a 4.9 WAR season and ended up being a Silver Slugger. So a lot of guys in our division getting recognition, but no one from our Pirates. So next up, Rookie of the Year, right? Yeah. So Welbin Francisca for the Guardians. He looks really good. 3.2 WAR, shortstop for them. Switch hitter. And in the NL, it is Ryan Campos, the catcher we just looked at. But I also noticed Cameron Cawley here, which you'll remember we considered drafting him in the Rule 5 last season. And look at the season he had in Philly, y'all. 26 doubles, 20 homers, 20 steals, 4.6 WAR. Oh my gosh. Had we taken him, who knows? Our season could have been totally different. But crazy season for him. Not awarded with the award, though. Best manager went to Kansas City. They made the World Series. And then same for Dave Roberts in LA. The 2 World Series teams get manager of the year. And then Cy Young in the AL goes to George Kirby. I believe his first. And kind of ran away with it. In the NL, it actually went to Kodai Senga, who took it over Paul Skeens, who didn't get any first place votes. So ended up with a 3rd place finish there. Senga just had a ton of strikeouts, I think, that kind of pushed him over the edge. So strong season for him. Brings it to New York, and then in MVP, Aaron Judge again repeats. We'll look at his. He 51 homers, almost 120 RBI. Big season for him. Edges out Sebastian Walcott, who got a couple first place votes, and Cal Raleigh, who put up a 7.4 WAR season and 40 homers again. But Judge's time at the top may be short, entering its end days, because Walcott is really coming on. He's turned into a tremendous player. Hit 300, had a 163 WRC plus, and still has room to grow. In the NL, it went back to Ronald Acuna Jr., who beat out Juan Soto and his teammate Michael Harris. But a big season for Acuna. 171 WRC plus, 33 steals, 35 homers all around. Very strong year. But I think that's a wrap on sort of the league news as a whole. I have been looking at Mullins' deals, and I haven't found anything I liked yet. There is a little bit of demand if we retain some of his salary. But I think I'm going to wait until the free agency opens and there's more players added to the trade block, so we can kind of look for a starting pitcher too, or somebody we might prefer more than what's currently available here. But let me go ahead and advance to that. We'll move through. There's not much left for us to do in arbitration, so next time I check in, we'll just be at the free agency pool reveal, and we can kind of review who's available, go over see what matches our financial situation, and sort of plan ahead for the rest of the offseason. All right, y'all, we are back, and we have advanced all the way to the free agency filing stage. And as you can see now that, we've sorted through the remainder of arbitration and everything, we have a little over 13 mil to play around with. This is, of course, flexible too, depending on how we choose to allocate our player dev and scouting budgets for the upcoming season. So if we find ourselves pushing up against this ceiling, we can readjust these totals here to make things work. But I kind of wanted to review, who's out there and who's available. There's no one really interesting on the trade block just yet, so I've continued to look at Cedric Mullins deals, and I think for the time being I'm leaning on keeping him. If something materializes, if I see a good starting pitcher appear here, maybe we look to change our mind. But for the time being, I think I'm content to keep him. But let's look at the free agent pool together. As far as international free agents goes, there's a good mix of pitchers and hitters available this year, and there's not really anyone all that interesting. This pitcher is really bizarre in that he has 80 control, but his pitches are awful, and he throws mid 80s. So that's just an immediate no from me. We're not interested in him. And then these other guys, this is the one guy who is really generationally good, the 5'8" kind of closer from Japan, Mr. Shimamura. But he's fragile. Although he does have a good personality, only a 2-pitch guy. We can't afford this, so there's no reason to even think about it. This guy is maybe a little more interesting, and we've requested a scouting report on him. He's 31 almost, and Andy Barajas out of Cuba, looks to be a pretty serviceable middle relief to back end relief option should all of this pan out. So we're kind of just waiting to see where he lands with our scout and if we, like what we see or not. So we could possibly jump in for him, but we'll see. This guy was already signed by Seattle, so no reason to look at him. And there's really only like one other bat here, Bao Falk, the switch hitter from Taipei. Very contact first. I don't think he really makes sense for us to bring on. I don't love his defense. He has no arm. So he's a no, and then all of these other guys just kind of stink. So we're not really playing in the free agency market. Barajas, like, pending. Maybe something interesting happens with him. In terms of the actual free agents, you can see some of the top names here, but we'll jump into the full offseason list for you guys to take a look. If we just go all players who are, demanding the most money, we obviously have Duran and the previously mentioned Shimamura as the big ticket relievers this season. And then we have Freddie Freeman and Isaac Paredes both commanding 20 plus a year. Then we kind of get into some interesting starting pitching. Nick Lodolo and Mackenzie Gore, I think, are two names we could consider bringing on, but they're a little outside of our budget range currently, as you can see. And then in terms of other high potential guys, you can see here there are a couple more relievers. Tanner Houck is here, Munoz, Nick Pivetta as well, and then Shane McClanahan's here as well, and he's currently injured, obviously, because he's Shane McClanahan, but just a ruptured tendon in his finger, so just a 1 month kind of injury there. Jeremy Pena is also here and interesting as a bat. But before we just dive into the full list, let's kind of go just around position by position. It's a little easier to digest that way, I think. So, we don't need much on offense in terms of batters. I did kind of want to scout a couple of these guys, though. I think we could use a third catcher depending on if something were to happen to one of our top two guys. And look at who's out here. Leo Bernal is here. And he wants a major league deal currently, but my thinking is maybe he lingers on the market. He still has all of his option years left. If he were to, stay a free agent for a while, I could see us signing him and just having him be our AAA catcher for a minor league deal. But I'm not going to pay him what he wants now. Also, Diego Cartaya is here. And he's similarly interesting, but the disadvantage with him is he only has a single option year left, so it'd be a pretty short-term solution for him. But we're going to scout him and kind of see where he lands as well. So I think it's likely we look to bring on one of those two guys. I don't think there's anyone else that is super interesting out here, but I'll need to take a look on my own time again and try to see if there's a AAA catcher we can bring on. I know Eliezer Alfonso is usually decent, although he looks like he's fallen off quite a bit in this. So that's something we may look to address. As far as infielders, I don't think we need any infield bats, guys. I think we're pretty well set with all of the moves we've made, but it's funny to see Juan Brito out here. He still never really figured it out, although he did do well in AAA last season, so maybe he's finally come along. It looks like his BABIP has improved. I wonder if he still has option years. He does. So, maybe we could bring him in on a minor league deal, and that would be funny to have him at AAA, sort of as a guy we can call up and down. But, there's really no one else here that I'm super interested in. I mean, maybe Michael Massey, just because he wants a minor league deal, and, similar story, has all three option years available, and I think could be serviceable in an emergency for us at the MLB level if he needed to be called up. Ronnie Mauricio's here, but he is out of option years, so that kind of removes him from consideration, even though he is a captain, and I like him generally. I don't think he fits on our current MLB team, and with the inability to push him up and down, I don't really want to bring him on either. But you can kind of see the other guys that are floating out here. Again, I don't know that there are any super big names, but we'll try to kind of make smart buys on some of these guys who are AAA, 4A players and see if we can find any good deals there. But I don't think we'll end up doing much in the infield, and same for the outfield as well, just because it's not really a major need for us. Hypothetically, would love to bring on Teoscar as like a DH, but again, we are tied to Reynolds, and same for Seiya Suzuki. I would actually really, really like to bring him on, but I just don't think we have the space unless we end up moving on from Mullins. So I don't think there's much here for us to do either. So, we can scroll through and kind of see guys who might make some sense to bring on in like a 4A capacity, but I think it might overall be pretty quiet on the offense front for us. So yeah, we're down into the 40 grade guys already, so I don't want to spend too much time on this. If we go to pitching, however, this is where I think things get a little interesting because, you think about our needs. We're looking for a starter and a back-end leverage lefty, and there are several options available to us. If we just go starter first and, we're looking for like someone who can lock down games as a number 2. I don't really want Glass now. He's too fragile for me, even though he would be very good. And, well, he's not super popular, actually. But I'm really looking at like a couple of guys, Mackenzie Gore being one of them, Nick Lodolo being the other guy, and then Shane McClanahan, despite his injury history. So we can kind of go guy by guy. I think Mackenzie Gore is the guy I'm least likely to bring on, even though he is the youngest. I just fear the BABIP and home run potential here. And his season in St. Louis last year was like quite good. But I worry that that's like very much an outlier for him. His like second year, like the first true year of the sim, his numbers were not so good. High FIP, high ERA, walking guys, giving up homers. He really kind of turned it around, and then his 2025 stats are like based in real life and like not aligned with his ratings here. So I'm just a little skeptical of him. He's kind of scary, and you look at his splits here, like righties are going to feast on him. So that's not really ideal, and his demands are pretty substantial at the moment, so he's kind of out of our price range. But the other guys, I think, are more reasonable if we look at Nick Lodolo and McClanahan, and all three are lefties, which I am also like valuing. But I'm also, it's like also just because there are some of the younger pitchers available. Like the other guys, Bieber's wrecked. Flaherty is a aging veteran at this point. Houck is a side armor, so he's a no. Manaya's old. Martinez is old. Pavetta's old. So like, it's just a coincidence they're all lefties, but like at the same time we could use a lefty, so I think it makes sense. Let's look at Lodolo. So this is kind of where I'm leaning. You look at his numbers last year in Toronto, pretty good across the board. The ERA is a little high and the FIP is a little high, but he's not walking a ton of guys. He brings the control. I think he's a very safe option. And righties feast on him a little bit, but, I like that the control is so high with him. And he's still under 30, and he has no injury history documented here, even though, he has had some stuff in real life, but it's not documented here in the game. And if we were to offer him a contract, we can technically afford this because he wants, the value to grow as the contract grows. So it's a little more favorable here in terms of, what we can make happen. But it's still pretty pricey on the back end, and I don't know that I want to pay him well into his age 35 season. So we would have to kind of negotiate with him on to maybe like a 4-year deal through age 33 or something like that to see if he would be, more into that. But he's affordable for us this current season, which is interesting. And, I do like him, but I am sort of like talking myself, guys, into this may be a mistake, but Shane McClanahan here was most recently in St. Louis, and he had a really strong season for them. Good ERA, good FIP, not walking guys, striking guys out. And he was really good the year before as well, also striking guys out at a pretty high rate. And I'm thinking like maybe he makes more sense, just because he is a little bit more balanced both sides. And while he is currently injured, I think that may play into our advantage if we're able to sign him on some sort of a discount. Although, it's definitely a lot riskier because he's suffered injuries every season of the sim. And while he was able to make it through the majority of 2027 healthy, he got hurt right at the very end on the 25th. Like, it looks like in the playoffs. So I don't know. It's just more risky. But if you look at his contract demands, they're more reasonable than Lodolo's. He just kind of wants 13 flat spread across his deal, which I think would be okay. But you obviously worry, like, should he suffer one more injury, it's likely he turns fragile. He's not currently listed as fragile, but maybe even after he returns from this injury, he gets bumped to fragile. So it's kind of like, I don't know. I think I may favor Lodolo just to be safe. The issue is that, he's more expensive, and we would have to rework our budget. So let me know if you feel strongly one way or the other about McClanahan or Lodolo. I think I'm down to those two. I'm not really into Gore so much, and then there's not much else on the market that I'm super interested in, like with the idea that like they would step in and be our number 2 starter. Of course there are guys here at the 4A level that I'll look to bring on for depth in our system, but as far as guys who can be frontline for us, I think we're looking at Lodolo or McClanahan. And then on the reliever front, things are a little interesting here as well. All the top-end guys are righties, which we're not necessarily looking for, and Sam Henches is out with a torn rotator cuff for 7 months. And I'm not really interested in Hobie Milner either. He's 36, even though he just won reliever of the year. I'm kind of out on that. We mentioned we're going to scout Barajas to see, what comes back with him, the international free agent. But in terms of like other leverage left-handed pitchers here that are available, it's kind of slim pickings. Not a lefty, but like Felix Bautista is here, but this control really scares me, and the selfish personality is no good. So I don't really want to bring him on necessarily. And I feel good about Brash and Abreu on our back end. I don't think we need another expensive righty reliever. So if we really just look at the lefties available, Dylan Lee is a possibility, although he is borderline old at 33. He had a really strong season last year in Toronto, 1.85 ERA, sub-1 whip. Things you like about him, he's very balanced and on both sides. Less so against righties, but, pretty balanced both sides. Things you don't like is the 25 stamina. And then we view him as losing a tick of velocity. The just general old age regression with him is kind of scary. So while he's like the highest rated guy, there are some concerns. And then we have AJ Puck here as well, who is having surgery on his elbow combined with this fragile nature. I think like he's just a no from me. I'm not willing to bank on him being healthy. Caleb Tealbar is 40, so he's a no. So we're going to have to dip into these 45 grade guys. And Keegan Aiken is here, who I've been looking at for the last several seasons. It's kind of depending on how his scouting report comes back is like how we're going to play it with him. He's not the most effective on either side, to be honest. He's kind of just average, so I'm skeptical that he would even be able to handle a high leverage role, but his numbers last season weren't awful. The FIP is a little high, but he's striking guys out. And maybe if a positive scouting report comes back, we could look to involve him. And then there were a few other relievers here that I felt were interesting. I mean, Edward Cabrera's here, and we could bring him on as a swingman. He's very popular. That's why I would maybe consider that, but not really. Andrew Chafin's 37. I don't really want to do that either. And Caleb Ferguson might just be the best available option for us. We might just have to run it back with him. It does look like his stamina has ticked back up, so that's a recent development, but we still have him losing a tick of velocity. I don't know. It may just make sense to run him back on a 1-year deal because, look at these other guys available. Kyle Freeland, I don't love. I think he's a sidearm too. No, he's normal, but oof, those ratings are not good. Let's see who else is here. Tim Herron, we've already tried that. But I do like Tyler Holton, actually, who it looks like he didn't play at all last season, so I don't know. I guess he's coming off of an extended injury with a torn elbow. So I could see this. We have very low scouting accuracy on him. I could see this being interesting to us because you look at this and it's pretty balanced both sides. I like the high control and the BABIP and the homer, but it's just he's not going to strike guys out, we don't think. But, pending the scouting report, this could be a move we look to make. And then, honestly, maybe we look to bring him and Ferguson in, just as a, safety net. It's just going to depend on, what comes back here. But I think he was kind of the last remaining lefty that I was super, super interested in because the rest of these guys are just kind of whatever. Quijada is okay, I guess, but he's going to walk a ton of guys, so I don't love it. And, like I said, there's not much left. So I think we're looking at either Aiken or Holton or bringing back Ferguson, but that's sort of the state of free agency. If you guys feel strongly about any of the moves I should look to make, definitely let me know in the comments. The trade block is still here as well. I don't think we're going to make any offers just off the bat, day one in free agency. I think we're going to let it play out a bit before we decide what we're going to do. Because like I said, I want to give teams the opportunity to put more players on the trade block, and maybe we can find our pitchers through there as well. But I think I'm going to leave you guys here at the start of free agency for this video. I know it was a shorter one, so I apologize for that. But like I mentioned at the top, I'm trying to make a stockpile of videos so I can keep up the uploads while I'm away and not able to play. So I think it's just kind of a trade-off we have to make, but if it's a good opportunity for you guys to leave feedback in the comments as well. So let me know what you think about Lodolo and McClanahan potentially filling our starting pitcher number 2 role. And next episode, we'll look to continue the offseason. We'll probably go through the Rule 5 draft and, start to see how free agency shakes out. But as always, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your support on this series, and hope to see you back in the next episode pretty soon.